Hello and a very warm welcome to all the viewers of Detox, that is Disruptive Literacy Talks. And this is Tanmay Prakash, your host of the session. Detox is a platform where we come together in eradicating illiteracy and focusing upon foundational literacy and numeracy, as committed under Sustainable Development Goal 4 and India's National Education Policy. Today's talk will be based upon innovations in foundational literacy and numeracy. And with this, I would like to introduce you with the speaker of the session, Ms. Afsana Sadiq, founder of Family Access Bangladesh. We are going to discuss upon the topic innovations in foundational literacy and numeracy and the experiences from Bangladesh. Family Access Bangladesh is an organization that works closely with the rural and the hard to reach communities to provide quality education. They have been working on ground since 2012 and strengthen the capacity of the communities to support the students' overall development. They also create a great literacy material both in English and Bangla and work closely with the schools to ensure that the teachers are equipped to build the reading fluencies and comprehensive skills in the students. Now, coming on to Afsana. Afsana has been working on training, supporting, and developing high performing teachers for the low resource schools for the last 6 years. After teaching in a low resource school in one of the biggest slums in Dhaka for 2 years as Teach for Bangladesh Fellow, she realized how important it is to become an excellent teacher to ensure equitable life opportunities and after completing the fellowship, she has trained more than 300 young professionals to become Teach for Bangladesh movement leaders. In addition, she has experience of creating and executing training modules on foundational literacy and numeracy, early grade students' curriculum, strong classroom management practices, social and emotional support for the students, and blended learning practices. She is currently working on building her own initiative through which she wants to build a community based learning centers for schools all around Bangladesh. Hello, Afsana ji. Welcome to Detox.
Thank you so much, Tanmay. Thank you for such elaborate and cool, to be honest, very cool way of introducing me. I'm very humbled and thank you very, very much for having me here. Yes, you told me before that you want to know a little bit more about me in this space.
Yes, because this was what we know about you, but there is more about you which you can only tell us.
Thank you, Tanmay. My career mainly has been at Teach for Bangladesh. I was a fellow, as you have read from my bio as well. Like I was a fellow for 2 years, and then I joined as a teacher coach. And since then, I know that even though teaching seems to the world that is very easy, but if you're in the profession, you know that it's not that easy, because if you really want to teach your kids when you have 50, 60, 70, sometimes 100 kids in a classroom, making sure that they're sitting down in the bench without making them scared itself is a big task. Yeah. And then what happens is then you have to teach them. You have 35 minutes, you have Bangla, English, math, so many subjects to teach, and kids are not in the school for a very long time. So how are you going to do that? So that actually fascinated me as a fellow and as a teacher coach. And since then, I was very interested to learn more about how to make sure that foundational literacy and numeracy, we are able to teach that easily. We are able to teach that in shorter period of time, within a shorter period of time, and we can support our student, because at the end of the day, if kids cannot read and write or do simple math, then their life opportunity at that point becomes very low. So that's what I have been doing. My own initiative, I was what I was talking about before, the Family Access Bangladesh. What we do from there is in the communities, sometimes we feel like schools are only way to teach kids, right? School is a format. You send kids schools, kids learn and they come back. That's the process. But it's not in that way, right? So we try to strengthen the communities to make sure that the communities have the power. And first of all, they know that they can teach kids, and second, they have the skill that
Hmm.
they can support foundational literacy and numeracy. So yeah, with family access, that's mainly what I do. And yeah, like we like during this pandemic, we also realized that having parents involved in education is more important than ever. So we are trying to expand the community space thing, but right now we are in the expansion phase, and trying to figure out how can we introduce it in more places. So yeah, that's about it.
Oh, great. You have been working on ground since 2012 to strengthen the capacity of the communities to support the students' overall development. So, please, can you tell us about the challenges faced by you in this whole process?
Yeah, so to be very honest, like there are so many things that needs to be worked on, right?
Hmm.
But if
Hmm.
I kind of pick three major challenges that I have faced so far, I would say the first one is we don't see, like we as in the policymakers or the educators, we don't see the power of the community. We think that we are there to help, we are going to support them, and we will be make everything better. It's a savior
Yeah.
complex that that we have. So for me, I
Hmm.
think that is the biggest problem or biggest challenge that I have faced, that we don't see what is happening in the community, what asset that they have. So we think that like we as in the people who actually think that they can go and save people, right? So sometimes these people think that there is a solution, that we have found out a solution, and one day I'll go in to the people in the ground, I'll give the problem, and suddenly the problem will solve, right? So and that solution that I have come up with, that will work. But the thing is that in reality, that's not the case. First of all, every community is different. All the people are different. You need to understand them first before bringing the solution in the process. So I think that mentality, or that savior complex that educators and us, like the people like us, have, I think that has been one of the biggest problem that I have seen, that we don't see how much asset there is in the community. So I think that's one. And second, if I go to a more technical one, I would
Hmm.
say that literacy, especially in more than numeracy, like literacy, I feel like it became something that it's like you need to learn how to read, but the teachers and the people who are trying to teach you how to learn, like how to read, they don't know that, right? Like they don't know that, as in like they give you a book and they think that you will learn automatically. You
Hmm.
are writing a, you are reading, you are being able to read a, and then you will be able to make words with a. But a is not
Hmm.
a in the for the kid. A is apple. A is never used as a when it's when it's reading, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Hmm.
the teachers actually in many cases, they don't have the skills or capacity to support the students to be able to do that. And again, I would say it's the problem of the system is not building the capacity of the teachers. So for me, I think these are two main things that I think are two of the major problems in the system where we are working in, and at the same time are two of the major
Hmm.
problems.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's about it.
Okay. Uh, your organization create literacy material in both Bangla and English, both the
Yeah.
languages. So, would you like to tell us more about that? That what are these literacy material, and how you get the inspiration of making these literacy materials in both the languages? So, something about that.
Thank you very much. So for us, I think the main support that we provide right now are books, education material, as in we provide, like we have created some books where we are actually using the education best practices in terms of how can I explain this? Okay, so for example, a child can learn about one letter when they are introduced with that letter first, and then they have a lot of exercises with that letter, so that they are practicing it again and again and again, and then they're learning that by heart, right? So the education materials we create, the books and the worksheets that we create, we make sure that when we are introducing them with education, like introducing them with letters and everything, or a new alphabet, or a new, like sign. Like in Bangla there are lots of signs like akar and stuff. So we are introducing them with all this. We are giving them a lot of practice and workbooks and worksheets so that they are practicing it, and through that practice and seeing it again and again, they are actually learning the concept. So for us, I think that's what we are doing. And also, like, we make sure that teachers actually know the fundamentals of, like, supporting the students. Because what happens is, like, sometimes you provide amazing materials in front of the students, but the end of the day, students end up memorizing this because they don't know how to use it, and the people who are trying to support them, they also don't know how to use it. So from our organization, what we try our best to do is, whatever materials we have, we make sure that our teachers are equipped to be able to use this material effectively and support the students based on that. So yeah. You're on mute, Tanmay. I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, fine.
Okay. So, what is your unique approach to achieve foundational literacy and numeracy in Bangladesh?
Thank you very much for this question. I think first thing what I would say is, I really think that education should not be stuck at school.
Hmm.
We have learned from, like, to be honest, like, after colonization and everything, we have learned that school is the only way to get education, and you should go to the school and find education, right? Like, so for me, I think that is my biggest thing, that, like, school is one tool to ensure that kids are learning. It's one medium, it's one process. And for me, I think for foundational literacy and numeracy, I think making sure that people in the community, especially the parents, the siblings, the tutors who actually support the kids in the community, they are all aware about how to develop literacy and numeracy, and then can support the child with that. So again, like, this professional, right? Like, thinking that only professional can do certain things. Like, for example, if you're not a teacher, you should not be teaching a child. Definitely a teacher definitely know a lot about education, but the thing is that when the child is spending most of their time in the house, and the parents don't think that they can support the child, then, like, there is a big gap that happens. The kids only depend on the school. So for me, I think what family access does, or, like, what we focus on, is like making sure that we are building capacity of the people in the community, people in the household, so that they can support the child to learn. And I think due to COVID, I think that also became a lot more real for us, like the importance of deschooling, to be very honest, the importance of bringing kids out of the school and still thinking that students will learn. So for us, that has been a big focus. And I would say that, like, that's where I stand. That's what my calling is, that, like, bringing education out of school and bringing it in the field, in the playground, in the house, everywhere, so that it's not like, if there is no school, you will not be able to learn, if so that that's not the perspective of people.
Uh, COVID has have had a great impact on the students.
Yes.
If we talk about in the context of India, yes, we had a very great impact, a very bad impact, we can say, because students were out of the school, and those underprivileged children who couldn't use the technology as much started to drop out. So, what
Yeah.
were the challenges after COVID which you felt that they were in Bangladesh, and how you and your organization tried to come out of it?
Okay, so I would talk about two places. I would also talk about Teach for Bangladesh, the organization I
Hmm.
actually has been working for, like, last 8 years. I would also say what we have done at Teach for Bangladesh. Actually, I have done more work there than my own initiative, to be very honest, because I was full time like working for Teach for Bangladesh. So if I talk about COVID, like from last year, 17th March till today, the schools are closed. We haven't been able to open the school even for a bit. So I think the biggest problem that Bangladesh has faced so far, I would say that like it's mostly the access. Access as in like even though online education is available for kids in the higher socioeconomical background families, when you look at the low socioeconomical background families, like the access is not there. There is like the education is now going towards a very digital format without the infrastructure. Like the country does not have the infrastructure, but we are moving to a digital education phase. So what's happening is like the kids who have kind of schooling, like who have the money to access the equipment, TV and everything, and their parents are also having more time, and probably they're also educated so they can support the child better, so they're getting one kind of support and structure. And if you look at the low income community, it's like there are kids who have not seen the face of their books like since last year. Last time they saw it like when they went to school. So I think the gap is becoming tremendous, and these kids who are in the low socio-economical background families, they have been kind of discriminated against since forever, right? And now it's being like we are making it worse for them. So for me, I think that has been kind of a very difficult thing to deal with, like not only like work wise, but also emotionally, right? It has been a very difficult journey for me to like actually deal with the fact that yes, we will be able to reach some kids and we are letting some kids go. And yeah, and if I talk about what we have done in Bangladesh, let me start with Teach for Bangladesh. Again, like I was the curriculum director at Teach for Bangladesh till this year March, and we have tried our best to figure out like how can we create an equitable like solution for all kids that we serve. And I would say that we serve the kids. That's what our role is. Like the teacher or the NGOs, like whoever we are, our role is to serve the kids. They are the we are the service giver. They are the consumer of the service. So for me, I think what our organization, Teach for Bangladesh, has done is trying to figure out first that who are the kids that has internet access or phone or like any kind of digital support, and then we figured out like who are the kids that don't have all this support. And when we figured that out, our fellows actually started working one on one with the students in the community. And at the same time, they created a lot of workbooks so that, like, sorry, it's, it's not digital. It's like even if kids don't have online connection, kids have something to do. So that was there. And at the same time, social emotional learning became a very big priority because kids were not being able to come to school, their routine was disrupted and everything. So we tried our best to make sure that we are being in touch with the kids, being in touch with the parents. So that was there, like a heavy focus on social emotional support. And then, as I said, like, not only giving support online or like, device based support, but also provide like, workbooks and stuff like that. So that even if kids cannot access, they have something to go to. And I think towards the time when the lockdown became little like, kind of, it was about to like go away. That time what we have done a very small like 5 kids 4 kids physical lessons. The teachers, the fellows will be going to the community and have these micro lessons to make sure that kids are actually getting that support. So that's what we have done to Teach for Bangladesh. We have done also phone calls and phone lessons, SMS lessons, and online, definitely that was there. So we tried to make sure that we are providing differentiated support. So now if I go back to my own work, as in like this is also my very own work, my own initiative. So if I go there, what we have done through that is we have looked into, again, the books distribution remained the same. We made sure that, like, even if the schools are closed, even if it's not like education is kind of stopped, we need to make sure that the books are going to the kids, especially in the areas where it's hard to reach. So there are some schools where our book is there. It's in the tea gardens. So in that tea garden, there is no other bookstore. There is no library. So if this is also not going to the community, then it also means that, like, kids will not get any kind of intervention. So we made sure that that is uninterrupted, that is going on. We also, like, in the schools where we have been working for longer period of time, we have made sure that, like, we are communicating with the teachers. So our books are there in 70 different schools. So we kind of communicated with all those people to figure out that, like, what they're doing, and also giving them ideas and supporting them to, like, that you can do this, like, what is your situation, tell us that, and if this is your situation, you can do this, like, kind of an advisory position that we took. So yeah, so these are few things that we have been doing. Again, nothing is perfect right now, the condition is not perfect, but what we're trying to do is, like, doing our best. So that's about it.
Yes, exactly. In this situation of pandemic, global pandemic, nothing is perfect, as you said. In the
Yeah.
meanwhile, I would ask our audience to please share your views and ask your questions, if any, in the live chat and the Facebook comment box. As you said in your earlier answers. I heard somewhere that you were telling about we have been after the colonization part. We are much into this schooling thing. If you want to get educated, you have to go to the school. So, what are your views upon bringing the education out of the school and taking them to the out of the school childrens?
Thank you so much. I think, again, that's something that I that's very close to my heart. So yeah, I think, not like, in the process of making people civil, like civilization process, the schooling actually came in at some point, and then we kind of forgot that, like, we can learn from outside as well. So
True, true.
if we look into that perspective, I think bringing the best part about school, I think there are two things that are best, like, schools are supporting us. One, standardized education. You are making sure that everybody has access to similar kind of support, right? Like, similar kind of, as in, like, similar content, they have access to that, number one. And number
Hmm,
two, I would say the good thing about school is, you can actually support, like, 30-40 students at the same space, right? Whenever, like,
hmm,
you're bringing the school outside of, like, school building, it becomes much difficult, because, and time consuming as well, because you have to, like, provide support in different houses, different places. So that these are the two reasons for which I think schools are super important. I'm not saying that schools are not important. So school has some good parts. However, like, bringing education out to the students is something that I would say that, like, that's where education happens, right? Like, I, if I think about myself, when I was in grade 3, 4, I don't remember what are the exact content that I have learned in the classroom, right? I don't
hmm,
remember that. But I remember that outside of the school, I did some shopping, or, like, I have talked to this dukanwala who is, like, I'm giving them money, they're giving me back money, I'm counting the money, and I have learned that. Now the thing is that, like, that is bringing education outside of the school. It does not mean that, like, you need to dissolve schools and then everybody should go outside. It's more like real life experience should be coming in, should be considered. Think
hmm,
about it, like, during this pandemic, kids have learned so much. Then my kids have learned so much. They have learned about their emotional well-being, they have learned about, like, managing their emotion, they have learned
hmm,
about
hmm,
hospital negotiation, name it, right? But that will not be considered as education. We will not even see, like, which child actually developed what kind of skill during this situation. So for me, that's what bringing education outside, or like, bringing, making sure that education is not only stuck in school. So that's one. And I'll say the other part of this is uh, taking in the education in the community. I'll say that, like, ASAR test, like the test that you Pratham has been doing for so long, the ASAR test. So it's a very easy test. Anybody in the community can actually do the test, and it's like, if the community is taught, then they can actually use the support structure as well. So why don't we make sure that, like, this kind of support structure is everywhere, so that we're not so dependent on school that, like, if the school is closed, education is closed, right?
Hmm.
So for me, I think that's what I meant when I said, like, education should be out from the school building setting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Your organization, Family Access Bangladesh, works for the people from rural background and also those
Yeah.
communities which are hard to reach. So, how
Yes.
tough it was for you to tell them that what is the importance of literacy, and or they wanted to be literate, but there was no source. The source was lacking. So, what was the consequences? Did you face some there was things tough, or there was just that the people wanted to get literate, but there was no source?
Both. I cannot
Okay.
isolate. I cannot tell you that, like, one happened and one didn't happen. So I'd say that, like, first of all, if I look into, like, literacy, the best practices of literacy is not used anywhere. To be very honest, like, in, like, especially in the hard to reach communities, in the rural communities. Excuse me, give me a second. দরজাটা একটু লাগাই দিবেন, please. Sorry. In the hard to reach community, what happens is, like, the education that the literacy practices, like, for example, I was talking about phonics, I was talking
Hmm.
about reading the same thing again and again, right? So this seems very alien, because
Hmm. Hmm.
from childhood you see that, like, you are reading from a book, you are trying to read. If you are not being able to read, you are getting slapped, and then probably by the slap you will be learning to read again. Like, I don't know what is the reasoning behind that, but that's how you saw it. Now someone is coming to you and telling you, say A is not A is a, B is b, C is ka, and then, like, try to make words. So I think introducing the best practices was pretty difficult, because people were not ready to take that, like, this is not, like, normal, like, that's not how kids are taught, like, that's what the reaction first. But again, like, sources were also, like, in order for people to know the best practices, they need to have the sources as well, right? Like, if you don't give them sources, how are they going to know that, like, what are the best practices are around the
Hmm.
world? So I think this has been both, right? Like, the reluctance that were there, it's because they didn't have the information or the knowledge, and as they didn't have the knowledge, they were reluctant, right? So it's kind of two-way road, I would say.
Hmm. So now, moving on, I would also like to tell you that what we at Devi Sansthan with our Global Dream Literacy Project do. So I'll be
Looking
sharing a
forward to
screen.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure, sure. I'll be sharing a screen with you, and then we'll come into it. Like this. This is our disruptive. This is our disruptive FLN, Foundational Literacy Numeracy project. And we at Global Dreams also believe that in disrupting the status quo when best is not enough. And we have a vision of a world in which every person is empowered with the skill of foundational literacy and numeracy. Our mission is to mobilize a movement for literacy for all. We provide education out of the school children and the underprivileged adults. And as I said about your organization also, that you provide several kind of two there are two different languages in which your literacy material comes. So we also have some literacy material known as toolkit. We call it as toolkits, which is replicated in 12 different languages, such as Bangla, Bihari, Hindi, English, Marathi, and others. So I would like to share with you one of our toolkit, which is in English. So can you see the screen?
Yes, it's there. Right,
So
just now.
this is our
I just
Global
seen
Dream
it.
Toolkit. This is a book one. And moving on. So this is the book all about. Like, we try to teach these students not from the thing which we want to tell them, like A for apple, B for ball. We try to educate them from their existing knowledge. Like, we post some pictures in the book which is very similar to them, such as you can see here is a violin, then there is an apple, then there is a nest. So we tell the children to identify the first sound of the given picture. So violin stands for V, so the first sound coming out of it is V. And then the apple, the first sound coming out of it is A. And then it is in the next picture it is shown nest, as you can see. So the first sound coming out of nest is N. So when we collaborate these three words, it becomes van. So a child within a very few time can learn a new word, without getting any pressure on them. So this is just an example of what we at Global Dream deliver in our toolkits. So these toolkits are also replicated in different languages, as said. Now, coming on to the final comment from you, that how Devi Sansthan and the Global Dream of Literacy Project, the 30 Hours Literacy Project, and Miss Afsana Sadiq from Family Access Bangladesh can come together and collaborate in working for the education, for the out of the school children and the underprivileged people.
Yeah, I think there is the Azan is going on. I think it will be a little difficult for you to hear. But if I tell you about, like, the in terms of the collaboration bit, I think right now the world we're living in, it's super important for us to work in collaboration. Like, if
Hmm.
one person is doing something, it's really important for the other people to actually hear to those people, and being able to, like, appreciate, and being able to, like, get that. And like, if it's supporting the students, making sure that, like, we are working together to serve our kids. So for me, I think in terms of working together, I would say that for Family Access Bangladesh, we are working with those kids. We are giving them the materials, and we are making sure that, like, they're using the materials effectively. So in terms of collaboration, I could say that, like, we can look into all the toolkits that you have and the materials that we have, and see that, like, what are the best practices that we can come up with. And if anything that you are doing that makes most sense for our children that we are serving, and whatever we are building, if you think that, like, that works best for the kids that you are serving, then there can be a very good way of, like, working together and figuring out what's best for the kids. So for me, I
Hmm.
think that's how we can look into the materials and look into the content that we are providing to the kids, and figuring out, like, how can we combine all the resources so that our kids have the best experiences.
Sure, sure. That's really amazing. And hearing to you, listening to you, and your views was really very, we can say, inspiring. As I can see in the comments, also people are saying that your speech is very inspiring and your ideas are very inspiring. So this, I hope we can collaborate further in future, and together work for the foundational literacy and numeracy, and working for the, we can say, in eradicating illiteracy from the country, from India as well as Bangladesh. The two nations can come together and work for the eradicating illiteracy. So with this, I would like, we would move to the end of the session of detox. But I would like to tell all my viewers that later this evening we will be listening to Dr. Anup Rajput, head of the Elementary Education Department, NCERT. To learn more about Global Dreams 30-hour foundational literacy and numeracy approach, log into www.globaldreams.guru, or you can also WhatsApp us on the number shown on the screen. With this, I would like to thank Ms. Afsana for coming to our session and telling us such wonderful things, which was so inspiring. Also, I would like to thank all our lovely audience. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you very